Have I already bored you by talking about intercalary chapters? Well, I'm gonna do it again. Hello everyone, I'm Father Aaron. Welcome to
The Dungeon Minister!
Whoa, that's really deep. Ooh, I've had a cold lately, so my voice is already pitched low.
Anyhow, so intercalary chapter. You know what? It's actually not an intercalary chapter. Intercalary chapters don't move the plot forward, and this one will move the plot forward. Yeah. Call it a transition chapter. How's that? The heroes of Honeywood have solved the forest maze using the song Oak and Ash and Thorn. They have found the great stone altar table and have planted the gem, which was not a gem but in fact a seed, and from it has grown the great Lord of Trees. As that tree grew, an earth elemental formed and tried to rip the tree out. They have thrown themselves in the path of the elemental to defend the tree. They have fought a pitched battle against the creature, defeated it just in time, and turned to see that the tender sapling they were defending was growing and growing to become a mighty, mighty tree. Into the clearing has come the wizard, driving the team of horses and mule. One of the horses is his own horse, which is pulling the wagon, the war wagon, the goblin war wagon that he reassembled using a nail of reconstruction. As the wizard showed up, he said, and then gestured to show the party, that the forest, which had been a tight, constrained maze, is now spread out and open. This was all the magic that guarded the planting spot of the tree, designed to keep any evil forces away, right? And once it began growing, the earth elemental, which was stuck there as a ward against the trees growing, by rival forces that are attempting to control this valley, the earth elemental formed. So, it is cleared open now, and the wizard makes a quip that he saw a crying giant. This was just me making a joke. There's no plot point here at all. There had been a number of illusory dead ends in this forest maze. A beholder, a giant chasm that was hundreds and hundreds of feet deep. And they thought the crying giant was one of those. It was just a joke that the wizard saw it as well, meaning it wasn't an illusion. There really is a crying giant somewhere around there. They decide not to pursue the giant. It wouldn't have been Skane. If they decided to go after it, it would have been some other giant. I would have thought on my feet and just invented something, but they don't go after it. They decide that they're going to head south. South because they have treasure they want to pick up along the way, and they really want to get back to Honeywood. They have seen through their crystal ball that all is not well to the south. But before they go, the wizard approaches the tree and kneels down and says, "Hail, Lord of the Trees!" Well, when in Rome, right, the party go along and they do likewise. They kneel and they say, "Hail, Lord of the Trees." Suddenly, the music that has been swirling around as the tree grew and gave forth a beautiful ethereal music, that music shapes itself into the hum of a human voice. And the voice is heard echoing through the forest.
"You have replanted and protected me. Thank you, friends. What boon would you ask of me?"
Ooh, boon. What boon? What's a boon? It's Bob Johnny. We tell him what a boon is, a favor, a gift, some sort of offering. And they begin talking. What would we want the Lord of Trees to do? And they start to share some wild ideas. We want 1,000,000 gold pieces. Kill Bargle. No, get us Bargle's spell book. Take us back home. All these wild things until finally they circle around for a while and end up saying, you know what? It should probably be some sort of forest magic. I mean, he's not going to be able to do... He's a tree, right? I mean, the Lord of Trees, yes, and obviously magical, but there must be a limit to what he can do. Probably druid spells, that kind of thing? What about healing? Can you heal us? They ask this because they're hurting. They are hurting, especially Bob, Johnny, and Touchberry, who are in single digits. Fleetwood, not much better. Foefire is the healthiest of them all at 21 hit points, but mind you, that's down from 42, so she's at half strength. And largely because she does most of her work from range, right? With that dexterity bonus on her missile attacks, she does most of her attacking from range. So they need some help.
Touch my branches.
Okay. They approach, and as they approach, I say the branches move down, even lower for Touchberry, move down so that you can touch them, and they reach out and they take hold of a branch. And I say warmth runs into your fingers and up your hand and arm and fills your body. They are restored to full health. Oh, that's powerful. Cool. Then the voice rings out again.
Receive this gift as well. Bear it with you. Hang it in your dwelling. You will have protection.
All right, so what this is, it's just a bough of the tree, right? A fir tree, so a bough of the conifer tree. And if they bear it before them in the forest, they will get, essentially for the entire group, will get the same stealth benefit that a halfling gets in the forest, which is 90% of the time they cannot be seen or detected, which is really good when you're hauling a big wagon, horses, mule, right, all this stuff, right? Hang it in a dwelling, in a building. The building itself and all of the occupants of the building, all those whose building it is or who are welcomed there by whoever's building it is, all of them will also have protection from evil. So, carrying it in the forest, it gives you stealth, and hanging it in a building, it gives you protection from evil. This is a nice little gift. It's not an overpowered thing, but it will help to secure their home, which they're a little anxious about right now. So, thank you, Lord of Trees. And they take their leave. I really had nothing prepared for this particular session other than, what will they do, right? I didn't know what direction they wanted to go in, if they wanted to follow the wizard, leave the wizard, try to overpower the wizard. I had no clue. So this was all reactive. It was pretty much all me simply reacting to what they were doing and having kind of an idea what the world was like that they were moving through. Now, this tree is located in roughly the middle of that valley that they're in, and so the wizard takes them south, looking for the pass, the opening of the pass that would have been a bit more direct from where the Saberclaw caves are. Remember the crystal ball, they asked how do we get to Skane, and the crystal ball gave them directions, but it kind of gave them inconvenient directions because it's a thing of evil, it doesn't like them. The wizard knows this territory though, heads for the better option for the pass, and down they go. Now they don't get all the way to the pass before night falls, and so they make camp. During the night, actually very close to the dawn, during Foefire's watch, she hears something. Clanking. Clanking like armor. The tromp of feet. There's a large group approaching. Wakes everyone up. Quiet, quiet. They can hear through the forest a large group moving. Armor clanking, wheels squeaking, and voices. Language is that. Fleetwood knows Goblin. They're goblins. Goblin army is moving into the woods. This is the Goblin army from the south, from the place that used to be the kobold lair that they had taken over. The Goblins took over. Now coming back north to reclaim their own. They're coming out of the pass, and they are making camp just over there. Quiet. Now, they listen in, and they can hear someone giving orders.
Camp here for tonight. This is good enough. Find shade. Throw up a tent if you got it. The sun'll be up soon.
Yeah, the goblins are British for some reason. Anyhow, They're just over there, and the players start talking like, ooh, we should go over there. Once they're all asleep, we should go over there and kill them all. No, we should go over there and take all their weapons away from them. Yeah. And, okay, let's do... Touchberry, go scout it out. Go look ahead and see what you can find. And of course, so Touchberry goes, and halfling stealth, right? 90% chance he won't be seen. He's not seen. But he comes back saying, oh, there's a lot of guards. They left a lot of guards on duty. The goblins have a watch, just like the players do. Duh, right? So, that's not going to work. All right, maybe we just slip away. We'll wait for high noon when it's nice and bright out, and then we'll move, right? The goblins won't be up and about at that point. Hopefully they'll have gotten comfortable, and we can move. All right, we'll stay quiet in the meantime, which is not so easy with horses and a mule and whatnot. But they manage it, and when they go to move, the wizard casts silence 15-foot radius upon them. Well, here's the thing. He probably wouldn't have had to because they have the branch. Now, at this point, they don't really know what it does. They know it protects them, but they don't know the mechanics. I haven't fed them that yet. So they have it, but they don't know that it's actually keeping them hidden. It's why the goblins came this close and didn't smell elf, right? They sneak away south. And they haven't gone very far when they come across the evidence of the goblin armies passing, right? The snow here is worn thin. It has been melting. Ever since Morag was killed, it's been getting a bit warmer. The season is early spring, so there still would be snow here, but not as much as had been piled up. It was Morag's influence that was keeping it even colder. So it is warming up, the snow's beginning to break, but here it's just gone, and the mud is churned up, plants are trampled, trees chopped down for no good reason, right? Just a swath of destruction they see coming from the pass out into the valley. Oof, that was a good thing we avoided them. On they go. They seek out the pass and head southward. Now, I'm making random encounter rolls as we go, and of course, once you get into the mountains, the chances go up that you'll encounter something, and encounter something they do. What will it be? An animal, okay. Animal, Bob Johnny has that ring. This probably shouldn't be. Ooh, Direwolf. Now, here's the deal. The Direwolf, I described the whole thing. It comes over the edge of the pass. It looks down into the area they're in. It's up on a cliff. It howls at them and it begins to leap into action, right? It gets the initiative roll, so it gets down at them before they can respond. Now, they talk about the ring. They say, well, we should use the ring, but then they say, well, I don't know, is a dire wolf? Is that some sort of magical wolf? Is it going to be affected by the ring? I don't know if it's going to be affected or not. It would be. It's in the classification of animal in the random encounter roll, so I'm going to say yes, it would be controlled. As a giant animal, like a giant rat, you can control one giant rat or 1d6 individual rats. So, yeah, it's going to be controllable, but there's only one anyway. But they don't know it. They think it might not be, so they just decide we'll just go with an attack. Right? It leaps down, it bites at Touchberry, it misses. 6 magic missiles slam into it. So does Touchberry's sword. And I roll a morale check. No, he's leaving. He's going to leave now. Bye. They let it go. They don't try to kill it. They just let it take off. Fine, you've learned your lesson. Don't bother us again. On they go. Eventually they come to the Saber Claw Cave, and they find there, in front of the cave, evidence that the goblins camped here. They find the old fires and the remnants of food tossed around. Clearly, a large and filthy group of individuals has made camp here and moved off. Did they find the buried treasure? Did they see the freshly turned earth? I give it a 50% chance that they did. 50 or under, the goblins saw it. 51 or above, the goblins did not. Oh, a 6 and a 63. They did not see it. Very good. The party digs up their treasure, adds it to the wagon, and they decide that they also will camp here. Seems like a good place. Random encounter roll, nothing over the night. The next morning, they memorize spells. They memorize a slightly different combo of spells this time. They're going away from the pure combat. They're keeping Lightning Bolt. They're keeping 1 magic missile each for the elves, but they're going with some other things. Charm Person, Phantasmal Force, things like that. They're mixing it up a little bit. they proceed south. They come to the bridge. You'll remember the bridge where the Saberclaws first attacked them. Well, they come to that bridge and discover that it is slightly narrower than the war wagon. At least, with the railings it is. If they take the railings off, each of the wheels will just barely be on the bridge. Now, this is a case of me letting the miniatures and the terrain dictate the game, which maybe I shouldn't have done. Maybe I just should have said that the wagons fit or something. But this is not actually the route that the goblins would have used for their war wagons. They would have brought those up a different path. So it doesn't have to fit over this bridge, right? The only groups that came up here, that came out of this end of the pass, the ones that camped near them, were foot soldiers and then supply wagons, which are much smaller than the war wagon. But at any rate, I decide to let the miniatures dictate things, and it is just a bit too big. So I say, well, you're going to have to knock the railings off, and once you do so, there's going to be a chance, as you cross the bridge, there's going to be a chance that you slip off, right? That you don't keep the wheels perfectly aligned, and then over goes the wagon, and your treasure is now in the river, right? What's the chance? Again, I give it a 50-50. I figure that's, even odds. And it would be kind of funny if they had to gather all the treasure up and rebuild the wagon and everything else. But I go to roll, and I roll a 74. Okay, so not a problem. You get across, and on you go. Again, rolling random encounters. Again, an animal, and it is a cave bear. Now, they fought a cave bear kind of close to here. It was on the north coast of the Great Northern Sea, but it was quite near this pass. So is this the same cave bear? Might be. They probably have a pretty big range. You'd imagine an animal that big would cover a lot of territory looking for food. Anyhow, it's coming toward them in the pass. It is very constrained here. I say that the edges, the sides are almost cliff-like. In the terrain, it's literal because that's what I used. But anyway, it's pretty steep. So it's coming toward you, and there's really nowhere to go to get away from it. But Bob Johnny remembers Ring of Animal Control. A cave bear is certainly within the realm of control, and he uses it. And he tells the bear, first he says, I'll tell it to turn around. And so he tells the bear, turn around, and then he realizes we're going to be following this thing until the next side canyon opens out someplace. Stop, come back. Go past us, just ignore us, and go on your way. So the bear turns around and comes lumbering back, right past them, within easy swipe, but Bob Johnny has said ignore us and just keep going, and the cave bear ignores them and just keeps going. Whew, and so do they. Finally they come to the Goblin Kingdom, or formerly the Kobold Lair, which became the Goblin Kingdom. Anyway, it's a game of civilization dominoes that happened. At any rate, they approach. The kennels where all the direwolves were kept, empty. The area where the war wagons and the tanks were left, empty. And up on the side of the cliff, where the great door stands, one single goblin. Now, there are more goblins inside, but very few, and this guy is on sole guard duty, watching the pass. And he shouts a challenge to them, and Bob Johnny casts Charm Person. I love it, because goblins save as a normal man, so there's almost no chance that this goblin's going to make the save, and indeed he fails it miserably. And so now they've got another friendly creature that they don't really want as a friend.
Hey! Oh, it's you! What are you doing here? What? Why are you with Filthy Elf? You elf too. Somehow you seem less filthy.
The goblin is confused, right? He doesn't quite understand why he likes this elf. Elves are disgusting. Elves are filthy and horrible, but for some reason he just finds him charming, right? So he wants the party to come in.
You come in, we feasting. Our homeland returned. Dragon dead. Army go north. Going to kill ones who killed dragon. Take all treasure. Keep all treasure. You come in. except Filthy Elf.
meaning Fleetwood.
Filthy Elf stay outside. We bring food out to him. We leave his food in bowl near door.
Like a dog, right? And okay, what are we gonna do? We don't want to go in because they don't know how many goblins are in there. I've rolled it up. It's a couple of dozen that have been left just to kind of hold the place in case things go badly up north. Just a couple of dozen have been left. So they probably could take them, but they don't know that. So they don't want to go in there. They don't want to get trapped. There might be some sort of, horrible trap set for them. No. But if we tell him no, then he'll want to bring his friends out because he wants his goblin friends to meet his good buddy Bob Johnny, right? You go tell them that we're coming. Get ready. Get the party ready, and we'll just park this wagon. We'll be right up there.
All right, now, good. You park. Leave Filthy Elf outside. I go.
And in he goes, and they can hear him.
Hey, everyone has to meet friend.
He's going in. Let's go! And they skedaddle. They head south as quick as they can. Fleetwood casts Phantasmal Force of a white dragon just perched outside the door, and he maintains it as long as he can as they drive away, in case they open the door and they'll get scared back in. They're too far away to hear whether it works or not. It doesn't really matter to me if it does or not. It's just a funny kind of gag. On they go. Finally, they arrive at the Great Northern Sea, and they faff around for a while looking for those saddlebags full of treasure that they sunk here like weeks ago now, a month maybe, right? They're looking for the saddlebags that they sunk in the sea here, and finally they do discover them. Touchberry trips over them, falls in the water, and gets up spluttering to discover that his foot is hooked in a strap. He almost drowns finding it, but he does find it. And they haul them out and add them to the wagon, and on they go. Now, this wagon is getting very, very heavy, right? It's getting very heavy. We don't play out the entire trip west. I think this is going to be a long time, and I just roll. Are there going to be any random encounters along the way? There's nothing. So I'm not going to bother with that, but it takes them a lot longer than it did when it was just them on horse and muleback, right? Because there's areas where there's tumble downs of rocks. Sometimes the beach is flat and, either, just flat rock or flat sand, and it's easy to negotiate. Sometimes, though, it's big boulders. And then they have to unload the wagon, carry everything over the boulder field, dismantle the wagon, carry it piece by piece over, reassemble it, which is easy with the nail of reconstruction. They just pull the nail out, put the nail back in. But they have to keep doing that as they go, right? So it's taking them a long, long time. But eventually they do reach the Gende village. They reach the village and initially cause panic. A goblin war wagon! Ah! Then they find it's the party, and they are cautiously happy to see them. Then they see the wizard, and they are genuinely happy to see him. He seems to be the guardian of this area, the keeper of all that is good north of the Great Northern Sea. And so they enter the village, and they are welcomed. A feast is thrown. Touchberry steals a ham for some reason. They're giving them food. They're not charging anything, but he wants to try stealing a ham. So I let him make the roll, and he uses the 1d6 for, interior sneaking, and by gum, a 6. I roll the dice and it's a 6, so yeah, nobody sees you. You take a ham, which they would have given you anyway, just for fun. Of course, this would not help the party one bit in the village if he were caught. I said they are cautiously happy to see them. They're very happy to see the wizard, and they welcomed the party into the village on the strength of the wizard's presence. A wizard whose name they still don't know, mind you. They've never learned his name, and if I'm honest, I don't know his name either. I've just never felt the need to have a name for this wizard. I'm sure he has a name. The Gende probably have a name for him if they don't know what he calls himself, but I never asked them, so I've got no idea. It doesn't really matter when it comes down to it. What does matter is that the Gende are a bit suspicious about the party. Let's review. The Gende are vassals to the Goblins, right? Ever since the Goblins came south and established themselves in the old Kobold domain, the Gende have been vassals to the Goblins. The Goblins stretched out their influence over the entirety of the north shore of the Great Northern Sea. So, the Gende were vassals to the goblins. In comes the party. On their first visit, they attract the attention of goblins and an ogre, and they fight them in the village. This is not good for the village. Then they chase the goblins and the ogre, presumably killing them. Then the next time they see the party gets on the boat of the dead and sails off to Giant's Tomb Island, a forbidden island. Right? These people, yeah, like they seem like they're decent and they are opposed to the goblins, and the Gende don't like the goblins. Let's not get that impression, but still, trouble. So, it is the strength of the wizard's presence that has allowed them such a welcome in the village, and if the halfling gets caught stealing food, that is jeopardized. I don't think Touchberry, I don't think the player realized, our middle guy, I don't think he knew what he was playing with when he did this, and it's just a lucky thing I rolled a 6 on the stealth dice. At any rate, the fact that they are only sort of welcome does work in their favor when they go to negotiate the hiring of boats, right? Having crossed the northern shore, the arduous journey around rocks and everything else with that wagon, they don't want to do that again. They also are pretty sure from the conversation of the wizard, he's not going any further, right? And it's his nail of restoration which is holding this rattle trap of a wagon in one piece. So if he takes that out, and it belongs to him, he's not going to give them a magic item like that. If he takes that out, the wagon is toast. And there goes their transport. They can't carry that much gold without the wagon, all right? So they're going to need to find some way to get all of this loot back to the southern shore, back to Honeywood, back to somewhere. Well, the Gende are fishermen, and so they think, well, maybe we could hire a boat. Yeah, you could hire a boat. It's going to take more than one, though. You're going to have to hire a number of boats because you have horses, a mule, you've got all of this treasure, you've got 4 people. You can't get that in a dinghy, right? You're going to have to hire a small fleet of boats, and that's what they end up doing, right? The good thing is that the characters can offer a great deal of treasure, and they offer it in gems. They offer it in gemstones, which would be transferable between cultures, right? It doesn't require this coin minted by this, none of that matters. Not that there's really a money system in BECMI. Gold is gold, silver is silver. We don't worry too much about whose face is stamped on it. We just sort of acknowledge that's a gold piece, that's a silver piece. But they were thinking in terms of monetary units. It was a question that Fleetwood asked. So they paid in gems. Great. Fabulous. Just keep track of which ones you've given away, please. All right? And they hire some boats. The Gende, as I say, are kind of glad to be rid of them. So they readily agree. They line up some fishing boats, and they begin to transport the PCs across the Great Northern Sea. That's after spending a night or 2 in the village, of course. It's not right away, right? So I roll a random, for what kind of weather they're going to have, because that will affect the voyage. The weather is mixed. It's not great, but it's not bad. Certainly, experienced sailors aren't going to have a problem. They get across the Great Northern Sea. I roll for random encounters. I get nothing. And they arrive. I say, you near the coast. And as you get closer, the distinct form of the keep looms above the rest of the landscape. Its stark, low bulk raised against the sky. You see no activity there. Can we pick out the banner? You may remember there used to be kobolds living here. When they came up the beginning of this arduous journey, the kobolds had taken the keep and were flying their own banner, a sort of olive drab flag. You don't see any flag above the keep. Kobolds have left. Or maybe they just took their flag down. All right. They land at the dock and begin unloading cargo, right? They have asked if the Gende could help unload the cargo, and they will pay them extra if they do, while they go up to check out the keep. We have to know if we have a secure place here. They leave the dock and follow the winding path as it goes up the hill to where the keep is, overlooking the sea. Now, there are no windows on the ground floor. This was to be a multi-story keep. Its construction was interrupted. And you wouldn't put the windows on the ground floor because an enemy soldier could come in and just, shoot even an arrow slit. They could use it just the way you would, right? So there's no arrow slits, there's no windows. There's no way to see any activity inside. The door down here was to be temporary. It was going to be filled in. But they don't see any sign of activity. Go around to the front. The door. The door is pristine and new. Fresh work. Now, that door had been repaired by soldiers from Kilmarnock when they garrisoned here after kicking out the kobolds and the gnolls after the Battle of Honeywood. But this is really new. This was freshly done. What on earth? They are very cautious now, and they walk up to the door, and they knock. Like, we're going to be cautious. Hello? Yeah, okay. So they go up and they knock. They pound on the door. A voice comes from above. Who goes there? They talk around the table in low tones. We'll give them fake names. I'm Ronald. I'm Steve. No. They decide they're going to be honest, right? Fleetwood, Fowfire, Bob Johnny, and Touchberry. Who are you? Wait there. There's silence. Uh-oh, they begin to back away from the door. Like, what's going to happen? And then they hear the bar of the door, the sliding sound as the large plank from behind, a large beam from behind is lifted out, and the lock clicks, and it opens. And out steps Lord Cormac, Count of Kilmarnock. By Marnock's eyes, what are you doing here?